Okay, we're recording.
Okay, perfect. All right, for the record, it's June 4th, 2024. I'm Phil Albrecht's hearing examiner for Oak Harbor. We're considering this afternoon a conditional use permit application for modification of some prior approvals for installation of a statute. The project number is 2306-0039. The hearing format today is we'll have a presentation from staff. The author of the staff report for this project will give us an overview of the project. Once that person is done, we'll move on to applicant comments. If the applicants want to add anything, they can. After applicant comments, we'll then move on to public comments. And I see we got a few people out there who are wanting to participate. We'll give you a chance to share your concerns and comments and support, or whatever it may be, whether you're participating virtually or there in person. Once we're done with all that, we'll go back to staff to answer questions, and then applicant gets final word. And after that, I get 10 business days after the close of the record to issue a decision. And that decision will be, emailed to anyone who provides an email address and wants to copy. If you don't have an email address, just give Ms. Heller your physical mailing address, and it'll be handled that way as well. So by state law, I'm not allowed to consider any evidence outside of the record. The only information I can consider and that I can access is the information that's put in the hearing today, and that would be composed of the testimony provided as well as any documents admitted as exhibits. And I'm going to see if I can share my screen at this point. Let's see if I can. Let's see here. I'm more used to the Zoom applications than this Ring thing. Let's see, where did that go? Ms. Heller, maybe can you share the exhibit list that's in the staff report on the screen? Is that possible?
Yes, give me just a moment to pull up the staff report.
Okay, yeah. So the exhibit list is on page 2 of the staff report. There we go. Yeah, I can see a list of attachments there. I mean, I'm assuming attachment 1 is the staff report. Exhibit 2 is the prior decisions. As I mentioned, this project site has already been subject to a number of approvals, including a prior conditional use permit, site plan, and a shoreline permit and a shoreline variance. Exhibit 3 is the zoning and vicinity map, which gives you an overview of what the zoning is for that area and around it. Exhibit 4 is conditional use application, where the applicant wrote up how they believe they meet the conditional use permit criteria. We also have public noticing comments and documents, and public comments. And Ms. Heller, there's just one public comment provided for this one. Is that correct?
Correct. We received one written public comment ahead of this hearing today.
Okay. All right. So at this point, I just want to ask if anyone needs to see any of these documents or has any objection to their entry in the record. If you do and you're participating virtually, just mute yourself, say I object or I need to see something. If you're there in the meeting room, just let Ms. Heller know, wave your hand up or something and let us know. Not seeing any takers there. And then on the virtual participants, I'll go ahead and admit the staff report as well as exhibits 2 through 6 listed in the staff report. Ms. Heller, are you doing the staff presentations there, or is there someone else that's doing it?
Our senior planner, Ray Lindenberg, will do the staff presentation.
Okay, and is he there in the meeting room, or where's he at?
He is. He's just off camera.
Okay, all right. Sir, just raise your right hand, and do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, nothing but the truth in this proceeding?
I do.
Okay, great. Go ahead.
I'm Ray Lindenberg, senior planner, apparently outside of the camera view today, but I will give a brief presentation here, a little bit of history that should give a little bit kind of guidance as far as what we're doing today. So previously, back in August of 2023, we had an application that went before the hearing examiner that included a conditional use, a site plan, shoreline substantial development permit, which is the SSDP that was referenced on the exhibit list, and a shoreline variance. At that time, we had a presentation and a public hearing, and a decision by the hearing examiner was issued on October 6th of 2023. He approved all of those items, all 4 of the items. So in that time, since then, the actual construction plans were developed for the base of the statue or the sculpture. And it was determined at that time that it was going to be have to be essentially out of the ground instead of flush with the ground. Also at that time, we found out that the actual statue itself was a little bit taller than we thought it was. And so what we're going to do is request a new conditional use approval for this structure and statue that will allow for a total height of 40 feet rather than 37 feet 6 inches. That will allow for a 1.5 foot tall footing base made of concrete, and then the 38 foot 6 inch tall sculpture on top of that. There will be some minor landscaping work around the sculpture and the location to mitigate any damage that there might happen by construction. Any additional park improvements or circulation changes might happen under a separate permit process. But that's not what we're considering here today. Essentially, what we're looking for is, because all 4 of those items were approved, the only one that requires a reapproval is the conditional use permit, because it is the one that has to do with the actual height of the overall structure and sculpture. And so essentially what we're saying is that the conditional use request is here today before you for approval, whereas the site plan is already approved. The shoreline substantial development permit and the shoreline variance are also approved. The shoreline variance allows for up to 10% variation or increase or change in height. So that's why we're right at 40 feet 6 inches, I believe, is the total that we're requesting, just to allow for a little bit of wiggle room there in the conditions of approval. And so essentially, going back to the conditional use application, a structure that is designated as a cultural historical significance can be applied. You can apply for a conditional use permit for those types of structures to be over 35 feet in height, and it would go through the conditional use application process. The City Council has determined that this is of cultural historical significance or artistic feature, and so it can be considered to fall under that conditional use permit standard that is in OHMC 1928-065, which is a slightly different section than your typical CUP section where it's found in the code. And so there are several criteria that have to be met. First being, it has to be demonstrated to be safe. It has to be located more than 30 feet away from the nearest property line. It does not materially impair the view of surrounding properties, and it does not materially increase fire or other safety risks for a property or surrounding area. Staff has determined that it does meet those criteria. We also determined that in the past, and we feel like this additional 2.5 feet or so of additional height will not change that criteria at all. So as we noted in the application and previous in my words here, the site plan review has been approved, the shoreline substantial development permit is approved, and the variance is approved. So those things are essentially off the table at this point. So we've reviewed the application against the conditional use standards and determined that the application meets the specific criteria regarding that review process, and staff will work with the applicant to ensure compliance with any height limitations, location, etc. We did go through the legal notice as required, and as mentioned, we did get one public comment, and we have some folks here today to talk about it as well. So our recommendation is to conduct the public hearing and approve the conditional use permit, subject to conditions of approval, that it be no taller than 40 feet 6 inches in height, be located consistent with the attached site plan. Any lighting for the art piece is not directed towards neighboring residential properties, and that the applicant coordinate with city staff on the construction plan review and subsequent approval to ensure that construction is completed in conformance with those plans.
Okay, is that it, Mr. Lindberg?
Yes, it is.
Oh, okay. Just some quick questions regarding the public comment. So essentially, we're just dealing with a difference of, what was it? It was 36 and a half feet that was originally approved. Is that the difference, or?
It was
Trying to
37,
remember.
37 feet in height.
Oh, 37.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're talking about a difference of less than 4 feet, and the public comment letter was about a couple conflict of use with the hydroplane races. I mean, is that something that was considered in the original conditional use permit approval?
It was, and honestly, it's a timing issue. They wanted to get the construction completed before the hydroplane race, so that there wasn't any kind of conflicts with the use of the property there. What they do is they drop the hydroplanes from a crane into the bay, into the water there from that location, and so the concern is to make sure that everything is complete and out of the way before the hydro races, so that there's not any conflict with that.
Oh, I see. Okay, so it's just during construction that there's that potential conflict. And will the timing still work out right now? Do you know, or not?
I think we're hoping. I can't guarantee that at this point. Honestly, I'm not fully involved with the timing of construction and engineering and all that.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. All right. Thanks, Mr. Lindberg. All right. Let's move on to applicants. Applicants, if you want to add anything. And Ms. Heller, I'm assuming that anyone who wants to speak will need to go to the podium there in front of the microphone. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. All right. Yeah. And so, well, let's see. Do you have a sign-in sheet, Ms. Heller?
I do. There are a few folks who signed in to speak. So I'm unaware if the applicants are actually in attendance.
Okay. Yeah. Well, yeah. First, yeah. Let me ask you, applicants. Anyone out there want to say anything on behalf of the applicant? No takers.
If you'd like to.
Okay. Let's just
You
move
don't
straight
have to
to
if you don't
public
want to.
comments. Ms. Heller, I think you can just go down the list of. Oh, looks like we got somebody coming up there. All right, sir. What was that?
He is going to, he is representing the applicant, but he would defer as essentially all the presentations have been made in the past, and he doesn't feel there's anything to add.
Okay, all right. And let me just say, though, that those presentations in the past aren't part of this record. So if the applicant feels there's any information that needs to be considered for this application beyond the exhibit submitted by staff, they'll need to get that into the record. But, okay, Ms. Heller, why don't you go down the sign-in sheet in the order of people who wanted to speak, and we'll let them testify.
Okay, I think we'll go through first names that we've got a gentleman up at the podium. We can start with you, sir. We've got a list of names we can also go through as well when you've completed. And then if there's anybody who has not signed in at that point would like to speak, we can move forward to them as well.
Okay, and yeah, when people come up to the podium, we'll have to start off just if you could state your name and how to spell your last name, and then I'll swear you in, and then you can go ahead and make your comments.
Thank you. My name is Gray Jordan, Giordan. My address is 651 Southeast Bayshore Drive, Oak Harbor.
Okay, Mr. Jordan, let me swear you in. Just raise your right hand. Do you swear firm, tell the truth, nothing but the truth in this proceeding?
Yes, I do.
Okay, great. Go ahead.
Were there any public surveys taken to ascertain the support for this new proposed location, or this proposed location, is one of my questions. I am not in favor of the sculpture being placed there. I think the location is wrong. Waterfront is a valuable resource. Shoreline is rare, and we don't have very much of it. And to place a man-made sculpture in the way of the view of nature, I think is antithetical to having waterfront parks. We already have 2 metal sculptures on the shoreline. There are 2 in Windjammer Park. One has been essentially orphaned. It's been there for a number of years. And there are 5 on Pioneer Street, so within view of the water. It seems to be a lot of sculpture right there. I understand that you've done the construction assessment because of building on fill, but I do not believe that you actually have public support outside of special interest groups that would like to see the sculpture erected. As I said earlier, I think that the location is the wrong location. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. And yeah, I'll have Mr. Lindberg answer all the questions asked during public comment when it's his turn to speak again. He'll have a chance to answer those questions once we're done with the public comment. Let me make a couple quick, I guess I call them observations about my role here. It's just to determine if it meets the code criteria for a conditional use permit. And those code criteria are: 1, it has to be demonstrated to be safe; 2, it must be located 30 feet away from the nearest property line; 3, it doesn't materially impair the view of surrounding properties; and 4, it doesn't materially increase fire or other safety risks for the property or surrounding area. As with all land use permit applications, public support isn't a relevant factor to determining whether to approve a project or not. And also, I'm not here to make policy choices as to whether this is a good use of taxpayer money or whether there are better uses for the park. It's just those criteria that I look at. So, I just want to be upfront. That's what's going to be ultimately relevant to this proceeding. So. Anyway, with that, Ms. Heller, why don't you go through the list of people who were wanting to speak?
The next name on the list is Linda Gadig. Would you like to provide comment? Okay, she's chosen to defer. The next name is Denise Hedrick.
Okay, and Cedric is with the prior gentleman. You could start off by stating your name, how to spell it, and then I'll swear you in.
It's Denise, D-E-N-I-S-E, Hedrick, Hedrick, and I live at 1401 Southeast Dock Street.
Okay, Cedric, let me swear in. Just raise your right hand. Do you swear affirm to tell the truth, nothing but the truth in this proceeding?
I do.
Okay, great. Go ahead.
So unfortunately, I guess I didn't know that this was you had limitations as to what you were in charge of at this particular meeting. So many of my comments may be, they need to be heard, but maybe this is not the exact decision-making place to do that. One of the things that I love about this place is the beautiful Old Town historical district that we have right here. And I am concerned that this type of object of art, which is beautiful, but it is not congruent with the rest of the Old Town feel, like the beautiful bronze ducks that are there and the ship's captain and everything that are there that really are representative of Oak Harbor. So that is one of the things that the historical value of what we have going on. This is incongruent. I'm concerned about the safety, and I understand that is part of your area. You look at the winds that we had this morning, and what type of, I guess because I live so close to the structure where it's intended to be, and what is the liability of the city in regard to that if that structure should fall down and get on there. So that is a concern. I understand, I believe, that the structure has the potential to rust. That is, it's not like stainless steel or anything, and there's lots of corrosion that goes on right by the water. So I'm a boater, and I know what pieces of, you just take a little propane can, and what that looks like after, 6 months with water and everything going through there. So the size, the height of it, the stability of it, the safety, is it going to rust? Is it going to have to be painted? Is it going to be an albatross financially for the city in painting it and doing whatever you have to do to keep that up once it's installed? The financial cost of installation, and that is one of your priorities. Have the ground study. I mean, there's water that erodes underneath there. Is that going to support that kind of a thing? And I'm sure that this is the planning department's look, but that is a concern to me. And then I think you've addressed that the hydro the financial loss for that if they are unable to continue that project there because that is in the way of them launching the boats, but it sounds like that's been taken care of. The other thing I see is the practicality of housing it there. Isn't there a more suitable place for it? I mean, there's already a roundabout at the entrance to Windjammer Park where they have the beautiful kitchen and nice picnic area, and perhaps if it has to be placed somewhere, perhaps that is a better scene and everybody can say as they drive around the roundabout, well, wow, you just turned by the Angel there to go to your party. It just doesn't seem like it fits where it's being proposed to place it. So those are the concerns. Let me make sure that I didn't leave anything out. Those are the things that I have questions about that I'm not sure where to get those answers. So thank you for your time.
Ms. Hedrick, thank you for yours. All right. And yeah, and I will say that in terms of, the decision to pay for the statute and place it there, that was a city council decision, I believe. And, so in terms of the policy choices there, it's approaching your city council members and letting them know that you'd prefer not to have that statute put in place. This process is mainly looking at what impacts does it have on the surrounding properties and making sure it's safe and that kind of thing. So I think a lot of your concerns can be addressed here, but not all. So
I guess I thought I was coming to a city council meeting, so there. So
there we go. Yeah, yeah. This is just a hearing exam. All right, Ms. Heller, next person on the list.
Next, we've got Wyatt Hedrick. He'd like to defer. And then the last name we have on the list is Mike. I'm sorry if I mispronounce Thielen or Thielen. Would you like to speak? Sure. Okay.
All right, Mr. Thiel, like the last speaker, just tell us your name, how to spell it, and I'll swear you in.
Michael Thielen, T like Tom, H-E-L-E-N, and also live at 1401 Southeast Dock Street.
All right, and just raise your right hand. Do you swear affirm to tell the truth, nothing but the truth in this proceeding?
I do.
Thank you. Okay, correct.
It strikes me that if this variance does not pass, then the sculpture will not be placed in Flintstone Park. Is that correct?
That's correct. It's a conditional use permit application, not a variance, but yeah, if the conditional use permit is denied, it can't be placed.
With that in mind, there's precedent in previous decisions over the course of the 24 years we've lived here, and one of those involved a jet in Windjammer Park. And it had been there for a long time, and it was put there for good reason, representing the Navy, also to welcome boaters into the area. But it was removed. It was removed because it didn't fit the park, but it also didn't, the maintenance on it was left, and it was always an issue how it was deteriorating. And so what I'm saying is that they had something, they placed it there, and later they ended up moving it. This permit process is been placed on this whole project because it's within this shoreline management authority. If the structure was inland, they would have no authority on that. Which means that there's a lot of extra expense, part of which this meeting is attesting to, that will be ongoing that has to do with complying with whatever that shoreline authority process continues to require. In addition to the maintenance of it, and back in 2023 and back in 2022, it was indicated that there was a lot of maintenance that was going to be required simply because of the conditions of salt water, sand, wind, rain. Again, those are expenses that seem to be unnecessary in terms of this permitting process because of the shoreline agency authority. You've mentioned that this is simply focused on the height requirement and the variance involved, but also in that proposal was the change of the parking and the driving in and out of that park. And right now, when somebody comes into the park, when they leave, and if they need headlights on, they back up and their headlights are aimed towards the marina and then go exiting. But under the new formula that is being proposed for parking and access, the people would be backing out and then they would be pointing their cars towards our condominium building, which seems unfair for privacy reasons. Also, the number of parking area places right now are very limited, and with the proposal of the new parking configuration, those parking spaces will probably be even more limited. So there's more involved in this project than just whether another 2.5 feet should be allowed. And so, as I said at the beginning, if this variance was defeated, then they would be moving the statute to a different location. If they moved the statute to a different location, there would be a lot less expense, which I know the council is concerned about. There's places where it would be more visible, which also the council was interested in making sure it was something that drew people to the city. And so it just seems like we're putting more money into something that is controversial and bears more expenses than is necessary. So I hope that this variance is not approved. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right, Ms. Heller, did you say that was the last person on the sign-in sheet?
The last one signed in. Is there anyone else here in person that would like to comment that has not signed up? We've got one gentleman approaching the podium.
Hi, excuse me, I'm John Kingsbury. I'm the applicant, Kingsbury.
Mr. Kingsbury, the applicant is the last person to speak. If they don't choose to speak at the beginning, you will get final word. But right now, we're just seeing if there's any members of the public who still want to speak. And Mr. Lindenberg will be speaking too. So, all right. As Ms. Heller said, is there anyone else who wanted to speak at this point, not the applicant or staff? How about Ms. Heller, the people are participating virtually? Do you see any members of the public who are linked in? It doesn't look like it.
No, that's what we discussed previously, that the provided link has been
Okay.
changed.
I didn't know if you had advertised the new link and somebody might have been
Yes.
able to use that. So,
Yes, we have no
all right then,
broadcasting.
Mr. Lindberg, there were a few questions asked. I'm, when was the, whether there was a public survey involved? Another was a gentleman said there were some changes in parking and access, and I'm not real clear on, it appears to me if there were any minor changes made, that would have been some approved administratively on the site plan as a minor amendment, but I'll let you address that. And then finally, if you could kind of maybe provide a little more detail about how the safety of the structure will be reviewed. I'm of course very familiar with how buildings are constructed and reviewed under the building codes. I've never seen the review done on a statute though, so if you have any more detail on that, that would be helpful.
Okay, thank you. I did take some notes, so I hope to touch on everything, and if I've forgotten anything, let me know. With regard to a public survey, no, there was not a public survey done on this. Unfortunately, in the past, the city has kind of looked for public commentary on some projects like this and have found that it becomes kind of messy with regards to people think they're voting yes or no on something. In that situation, we gather the comments and we get the information, but it's not a thumbs up, thumbs down kind of situation. For this particular application, we did not do a public survey. We did the public noticing as we always do. But the site plan has been approved, as we've mentioned a few times. The city council has determined there is an artistic piece that they would like to have in this particular location. So that essentially that's been kind of gone over before at both the city council level when we're talking about the actual location of the actual placement of the sculpture, and then also when we did this previous CUP and other applications in August of last year. Another thing I heard as far as additional costs and maintenance issues, yes, that has been considered. There are existing structures, in parks that we maintain frequently. There's a flagstaff that's in this park, in Flintstone Park, that is maintained by the city Parks Department, and that's something that we just do as a matter of course as a city. There is no additional costs involved with any permitting or anything at this point. All of the permitting has been completed. This is essentially the last step. Construction costs are also already agreed upon as far as who's paying for what and has been accounted for and budgeted for. For the site plan itself, the site plan is approved, as I mentioned, and is for the sculpture only. Any future reconfiguration or changing of parking and circulation may require a separate site plan review. So we will essentially cross that bridge when we get there. My understanding is that we are looking at placing the base for the structure, placing the sculpture on top of it, and going from there. There might be further renovations to the park that would require additional review. With regard to your question about safety, we did have the base engineered by a licensed engineer. They are confident that it's not going to be unsafe or not fall over or become a danger in inclement weather and what have you. The other kind of side note to that is there is a reason that it has to be at least X number of feet away from the nearest property line, and that is to prevent it from falling onto other property if that were to happen. But like I said, it's been engineered by a licensed engineer, and we are confident that that should not be an issue. If there is any liability, if there are lawsuits and things like that happen, and the city has insurance, and hopefully the licensed engineer has insurance as well. But we don't anticipate it's going to be any problem. We've had it reviewed by our staff, both our engineering staff and our building department staff. So,
Okay, Mr. Lindberg, just to kind of clarify, I understood that some testimony to say that the parking and access had changed since the site plan approvals, or maybe the gentleman just meant to say that the current parking and the access would change. I mean, can you just confirm, have there been any changes to parking and access since the prior site plan approval for this project?
No, there have not.
Okay,
The
all right.
site plan that you got the site plan you got as part of your package is for reference. Because what we're looking at here is strictly the conditional use. We're essentially strictly looking at the height of the structure. And so circulation questions, things like that, will go through the site plan review process. The site plan review has been approved.
Okay, yeah, that was just a kind of a clarification, because as I said, it sounded like maybe one of the persons testifying was saying that the parking and access had changed since the prior approval, but you're saying it has not.
It has not.
Okay. All right. Okay. Well, now I think we can finally go to the applicant, sir. Your third time at bat. I think we can, this time you can actually speak if you want to, for the applicant.
I just wanted to
There we go.
clarify some of these points, and I think.
Oh, sorry, I need to swear you in, though. And first of all, let us know your last name for the record.
John Kingsbury, Kingsbury.
Mr. Kingsbury, just raise your right hand. Do you swear affirm to tell the truth, nothing but the truth in this proceeding?
Yes.
Okay, great. Go ahead.
I just wanted to clarify and answer a couple of concerns that some of the prior speakers had mentioned, and Mr. Lindenberg took care of it. So I really have nothing other to add than everything is covered on our end.
Sounds good then. Well, like I said, I will leave the record open for, let's see, what today is Tuesday, I believe. It's the 4th. Hold on a second. Yeah, so I'll leave the record open until Thursday at 5 p.m. For any persons who were trying to participate virtually today and had the wrong link. Go ahead and they'll be allowed to provide an email commentary to Ms. Heller, and then I'll allow staff and applicants a couple days to respond to that. So, Ms. Heller, of course, if anybody contacts you and said they tried to participate today, let them know that they can submit their comments in writing, just to get them to you by Thursday at 5. And if that's not enough time for them, let me know, and I'll probably grant an extension on that. So, does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, great. All right. With that, since we may still be getting additional comments, I can't express any opinions about the proposal right now until all the comments are in. You know, and I understand might have been a little confusion about who the decision maker is there. That happens sometimes, you know, when people just see an official public notice, they think it's their elected officials making the decisions. But at this level, we're just dealing with, you know, does this meet code requirements for being compatible for the proposed location? I mean, the council apparently has already made the decisions on they want to spend the money on this, and they've committed funds to it, and it appears to be in their rearview mirror at this point. But you know, you can always change your council members' minds and give that a try. But anyway, beyond that, if any of you need a copy of my written decision, go ahead and make sure Ms. Heller has a copy of your email address, and we'll be sure to send that out to you. So with that, I appreciate you all taking the time to come out today, and your comments will be seriously considered. I get a transcript of the testimony, and I try to ensure that all of your comments are made a matter of public record in my decision as well. So thank you again for coming out, and have a